Hello and welcome to the GCN Racing News Show as we round up all the action from the previous 7 days, including everything that's been happening at the start of this year's Vuelta España. This week though, in the world of racing, we learnt that riders are still celebrating too early. Oops, that was Riley Sheehan on stage 2 of the Deutschland Tour. Always brutal to watch, sorry Riley. We also found out that world champ Tadej Pogačar keeps a keen eye on pro racing, and he isn't happy. This year's Tour winner took to his social media to criticise a jury decision at the Deutschland Tour earlier in the week. The first 3 stages of the Vuelta España kicked off in northern Italy this past weekend with sprint stages and uphill finishes. Racing was full gas from the get-go. The opening 186km stage from Torino to Novara belonged to Jasper Philipsen of Alpecin-Deceuninck, who showed he'd recovered from injury sustained from that brutal crash at the Tour earlier last month. Backed by a perfectly timed lead-outs, the Belgian sprinter outpaced Ethan Vernon of Israel Premier Tech and Orlui Ula of Movistar to claim the win by a good margin and handed Philipsen the race's first red leader's jersey. The second 157km stage from Alba to Le Mans Piemonte was a tougher affair and saw an uphill battle to the line. The final climb to the Le Mans 1400 ski resort spans 9.8km with an average gradient of 5.1% and the ascent ramps up to 10% with 800 metres remaining. So a tough enough test on day 2 of this year's race. Despite a crash just 35km from the line, Jonas Vingegaard kicked past Gaudu in the closing stages to secure victory. David Gaudu of Groupama FDJ crossed third. Vingegaard also moving into the red jersey after his efforts. Stage 3, still in Italy, saw a punchy parcours from San Maurizio Canavese to Ceres over 139km and produced a late twist in the finale. With Little Trek setting up for Mads Pedersen, it looked like the Danes' day until David Gaudu launched a move through a sharp hairpin in the final sprint to take a really savvy victory from under Pedersen's nose. The Frenchman took the stage win, denying Pedersen a stage win in a race which won't see too many opportunities for those non-mountain goats. It was Gaudu's first win since the stage of the Tour of Oman in February, after a below-par season by his own standards. That win saw Gaudu close the general classification gap to equal time with Vingegaard thanks to bonus seconds, with the Dane retaining red due to previous stage positioning. Tight at the top then, still, with top 25 riders all within 16 seconds of each other. Ciccone currently sits in third, 8 seconds down on the top 2, with Egan Bernal in fourth, 14 seconds back. The action continues today, of course, with a day that looks like one the sprinters may prevail on, before a team time trial tomorrow and another mountain test the following 2 days as the race heads to Andorra and across the Pyrenees. Remember, you can watch all the racing on Discovery Plus and Max. Away from the racing, there was a very unfortunate situation actually for Visma Lease bike. Before the start of stage 3, they had around 18 bikes stolen from the team truck at the race hotel in what appears to be an organised theft. With help from Little Trek and Movistar, who shared the hotel, team mechanics were able to build up bikes to replace those stolen in order for riders to continue in the race, in what must have been an extremely stressful situation only hours to go before the stage starts. Good to see the team recover from what must have been a horrible situation, and a reminder for us all, I guess, to be vigilant. Team CEO Richard Plugger called for more security actually as a result of this at race accommodation after the theft, claiming that such measures have decreased in recent years. Away from the Vuelta, it was the Renewi Tour in Northern Europe, a stage race that often sees aggressive, classic-style racing from start to finish. It would be Lotto's Arnaud Delis who took overall victory after defeating Mathieu van der Poel on the final stage into Leuven. The Belgium winning the GC by 3 seconds over Van der Poel thanks to bonus seconds over the race. Tim Wellens rounded off the podium in third, 31 seconds back. It was a first World Tour win for the Belgian rider who has struggled with injury and illness this year and hasn't delivered perhaps the consistent results he has begun to be known for. Overall here will be a big confidence boost for the young rider though, and a massive win of course too. Mathieu van der Poel did win the third stage however, whilst Tim Merlier of Soudal Quickstep took 2 stages in the form of the first and fourth stages, and Olaf Koy won the third stage for Visma Lease bike. The Deutschland Tour also concluded during the week. Søren Warrenskold of Uno X Mobility took the overall win. Søren won the opening 3.1 kilometre prologue by half a second to Sam Watson, but then lost the overall lead on the following stage after Matthew Brennan took sprint victory over Jonathan Milan and Danny van Poppel, with Brennan moving into the leader's jersey. On stage 2, Jonathan Navarez took victory, just pipping Riley Sheehan of Israel Premier Tech, who celebrated a tad early, as we said earlier in the show. Warrenskold reclaimed the race lead on stage 3, however, after again winning the stage in a bunch sprint. However, controversy reigned, as on the line it was actually Danny van Poppel who came home first. However, he was soon relegated for dangerous sprinting, which nearly caused Warrenskold and Brennan to go down. Now, that relegation caused Warrenskold to take the win, but controversy continued, with many questioning the decision, including Tadej Pogačar, who commented on his Instagram that these relegations are a joke and not correct. Congrats, Danny van Poppel, you won. Don't get me wrong, if they are relegating riders here, they can relegate 4 or 5 riders. Either way, the decision stood, and heading into the race's final stage, it would again be Brennan who took the win, with Warrenskold in second, meaning that after bonus seconds and that prologue win, it would be the Dane Warrenskold who took overall victory. Quick transfer roundup now, and the main news from the week is that Derek G has announced his departure from Israel Premier Tech with immediate effect. The team are disputing the exit, claiming his contract is valid until 2028, and seem prepared to legally fight the move. G has been linked to the likes of Ineos Grenadiers, as reported by Daniel Benson. However, in a statement released on his Instagram and X account, G was keen to point out that the exit was not due to an offer from another team, but because certain issues simply made his continuation at the team untenable. We'll report on where the young Canadian may end up next year when we hear it. G has shown huge promise, of course, in recent years. 4th overall at this year's Giro and a top 10 at last year's Tour amongst his standout results. And I'm sure he'll have teams queuing to try and secure his services. Another rider to break contract is Mathias Norsgaard, the tallest rider in the pro peloton actually, at 203 centimetres, only 1 centimetre shorter than me. He had 1 year left on his contract with Movistar after signing a 3-year deal in 2023. He now has signed with Little Trek in a 2-year contract in what is a done deal for all parties. Little Trek have lost the likes of Tim de Klerk, Jasper Stuyven and Alex Kirsch next year, and this signing is seen as a way of strengthening Mads Pedersen's support as he targets monuments and wins next year. Right, that is about all for now, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.